None of us stood on the crossroad, covered with indecision, while a quiet whisper in the depths of our consciousness seemed to know exactly which way to turn, as if some kind of deep wisdom lived in us, which is often silenced by the noise of everyday life. But imagine that this inner voice, your intuition, is something more than just random thoughts. This is a deep connection with the ancient wisdom of Stoicism. Today we will learn how Stoics, such as Mark Aurelius and Seneca, used this inner wisdom not just for survival in turbulent times, but for prosperity. We will reveal secrets that will help us not only to hear our deep intuition, but also to actively cultivate it, directing us to a more conscious and full-fledged life. This video is a practical guidance that will turn inner noise into a source of inner wisdom, and will show how Stoicism can help us find clarity amidst the chaos of modernity. Find out your hidden side of personality. On the path of self-knowledge and personal growth, one of the most transforming aspects that we can explore is our own shadow and archetypes. This research is not just self-analysis, but the revelation of the full potential of our personal and emotional growth. The concept of shadow, introduced by Carl Jung, refers to the parts of ourselves that we often prefer to ignore or suppress. These are the features of character, desire and memory, which for various reasons do not correspond to the image that we have of ourselves or want to project into the world. Understanding and integration of our shadow can be deeply liberating. It is about bringing to light the aspects of ourselves that we have squeezed into darkness. Jung claimed that this process is necessary to achieve psychological integrity. This is perfectly consistent with the Stoic philosophy, in which self-awareness and control over one's emotions and actions are of primary importance. Stoics, such as Mark Aurelius, believed that self-awareness was the starting point of goodness. He often wrote that it is necessary to observe oneself and learn from one's thoughts, which is very similar to understanding one's shadow. In addition, our research extends to the kingdom of archetypes. Jung defined them as universal, mythical characters or themes that live in our collective subconscious. Each person embodies these archetypes in different ways, and they influence our beliefs. For example, you may discover that for you, naturally, the role of a teacher is to always strive to take care of others, or, perhaps, a warrior who constantly strives to overcome difficulties. Why is this so important? By learning and understanding these archetypes, we will be able to better orient ourselves in our reactions and interactions with the world. This self-analysis allows us to understand why we cling to certain roles. And it can help us to balance our life, making it more saturated. In its nature, this is a rather Stoic approach. As Epictetus noted, what is important is not what happens to you, but how you react to it. Understanding your archetypes helps us to react more consciously and effectively. The process of learning your shadow and your archetypes requires honest self-analysis. And it is here that Stoic practices really shine. Stoicism teaches us to think deeply about our thoughts and feelings, to question our instinctive reactions, and to understand their origin. This is like traveling in the shadow along the young river. It is about confronting the parts of ourselves that we, perhaps, do not dare to admit. Thus, we discover hidden forces that define our lives, which allows us to either change them or completely accept them. For example, the recognition of a hidden part of your shadow can explain why some situations seem too difficult for you, or why certain relationships are bound to difficulties. Similarly, understanding that you embody the archetype of a ruler can explain your desire for control and leadership, directing you to use these traits wisely and not despotically. This journey into the shadow and archetypes is not just about revealing hidden parts of our psyche. It is about using these knowledge for a more harmonious and genuine life. Stoics believe that we need to live in accordance with nature, both with nature surrounding us and with our own. Understanding our shadow and our archetypes, we are more or less in accordance with the Stoic ideal. Archetypes are more or less in accordance with the Stoic ideal, which leads to life, complete goodness and personal peace. Continuing to explore the depths of our inner world, let us remember that every discovery is a step towards greater clarity and mastery over oneself. This is a journey. No matter how difficult it may be, it enriches our lives, giving us tools that allow us to wisely and elegantly navigate the difficulties of human emotions and interactions. Release your intuitive feelings. Unlocking intuition is a key step not only to a better understanding of oneself, but also to making wise decisions that deeply reflect our true needs and values. Stoics, pioneers in the field of self-awareness, taught us that our life depends not on external events, but on how we react to them. This awareness is especially important when we encounter obstacles that prevent our intuition from manifesting itself. Sometimes our intuitive feelings are suppressed by social norms, personal prejudices, or past traumas, which create a noise that silences the quiet voice of our intuition. According to Stoics, in order to achieve clarity, one must constantly review and question one's initial impressions. Mark Aurelius paid special attention to this, regularly analyzing his thoughts, to make sure that they are not impregnated and correspond to reality. Also, Carl Jung's idea of the shadow self emphasizes this principle. If we do not recognize, and do not integrate the hidden aspects of our personality, they can imperceptibly influence our reaction and decision. What we reject in ourselves does not disappear, but continues to act in the shadows, forming our behavior without our conscious participation. Understanding our shadow aspects opens the way to the free manifestation of our intuition. Stoicism provides practical tools for deep self-examination. One of these tools is the practice of daily thinking, which Seneca highly appreciated as a way to review and correct our thoughts and actions. This method helps us to daily analyze the causes of our feelings and decisions, to learn to recognize moments when the intuition loses its place in less rational motivations. But how to overcome these obstacles and eliminate them in practice? It all starts with the development of such thinking, which welcomes honesty in relation to oneself. This does not mean the need to be harsh or critical of oneself. Rather, it is a call to approach one's inner experience with curiosity and openness. Epictetus, an outstanding Stoic thinker, emphasized the importance of observing oneself, as if observing another person, which allows us to achieve objectivity and to see which parts of our reactions are sincere, and which ones are caused by external circumstances or internal conflicts. Meditation based on awareness is another powerful tool for tuning into intuitive feelings. Awareness will teach us to be present in our thoughts and feelings without condemnation. This presence allows us to discover subtle intuitive impulses, which can be muffled more easily through loud emotional reactions. Also, this presence teaches us to identify and release internal blocks, which interfere with the clarity of our intuitive feelings, and allows us to better understand how emotional patterns and past experiences form our reactions to current events. Thus, daily practice of self-observation and meditation becomes not only a way to improve our intuition, but also a way to a more conscious, harmonious life. Another effective approach offered by Stoicism is interaction with nature. Stoics are convinced that nature carries priceless lessons about harmony and life in accordance with natural laws. By spending time surrounded by nature, we can discover these lessons for ourselves and restore the connection with our intuitive self. This allows us to distract ourselves from the noise of modern life, and regain our inner balance. In the example of the Stoics, we see how important it is to learn from nature, which follows its unique rhythm without unnecessary fuss. They believe that meditative observation of nature helps us to understand and accept the cyclical nature of life and death, growth and decline. This understanding leads to deep peace and strengthening of our intuition. In order to achieve harmony between intuition and rationality, we can recall Aristotle's concept of the golden middle. This is a balance between extremes, which allows us not to succumb to fleeting emotions, but also not to be overly entangled in logical analysis. The search for this balance is the key to a full and meaningful perception of life. Eliminating obstacles for intuition requires us to conduct an honest and deep dialogue with ourselves. This is a process in which we learn to recognize and release internal blocks so that our intuition can manifest freely. The practice of Stoic and psychological principles helps our intuitive sensations to become clearer and more accurate, which, in turn, leads us to a more wise and meaningful life. Interaction with nature, thinking about the balance between intuition and reason, as well as honest self-analysis, enrich our personal life and improve our relationship with others. This creates a more holistic and harmonious life that reflects our deep values and aspirations. Train your intuition. Stoics consider the development of intuition as the most important skill, closely associated with the virtue of wisdom. They believe that by perfecting the ability to perceive and interpret our inner signals, we would be able to lead a life that was more in line with our true nature in the outside world. In Stoicism, Mark Aurelius often emphasized the importance of self-analysis and careful observation of one's thoughts and actions. This practice is not only in understanding the external influences on our lives, but also in adjusting to our internal reactions. He spoke of a kind of reflexive meditation, when a person observes his thoughts and emotions without immediate condemnation, allowing deeper intuition to emerge from the usual chit-chat of the mind. This idea is a parallel idea of Carl Jung about interaction with the unconscious mind. Subtitles by the Amara.org community. Jung believed that our unconscious mind preserves the permeability and wisdom that our conscious mind cannot immediately perceive. Practices such as meditation, reading a diary, and practicing art, for example, allow us to enter these deep spheres of our psyche. These practices allow us to go around more logical, superficial thinking and gain access to intuitive insights that lie in the depths. Meditation, for example, helps to calm the mind so much that we can hear a softer, often gloomy voice of our intuition. We are talking about creating a space in which our intuitive knowledge can surface and be recognized. This is not a passive, but an active form of interaction with our inner self, where we learn to listen and trust subtle tips that often lead us to a choice of more or less the opposite of what we think is right or wrong. Meditation, for example, helps to calm the mind so that we can hear a softer, often gloomy voice of our intuition. This is not a passive, but an active form of interaction with our inner self, where we learn to listen and trust subtle tips that often lead us to a choice of more or less the opposite of what we think is right or wrong. Meditation, for example, helps to calm the mind so that we can hear a softer, often gloomy voice of our intuition. This is not a passive, but an active form of interaction with our inner self, where we learn to listen and trust subtle tips that often lead us to a choice of more or less the opposite of what we think is right or wrong. Reflexive diaries are another powerful tool in this process. They include a record of our daily experiences, emotions, and thoughts that accompany them. Over time, patterns begin to manifest that can teach us a lot about our deep motivations, fears, and desires. These practices strengthen our intuitive skills. This process congrats us by letting us to understand how we normally react in certain situations and how these reactions correspond to our purpose, goals and values. It also is a great aid to casting assimilation in those moments when we can hearts our world and will change ourselves beyond our anywhere. Moreover, Greektal arts can be of great interest to us in interpreting and compassion our subconscious thoughts. Art to now cantar curls, tea and poems, painting or music can let us explore or express our inner pleasures in different ways. Art to now contrapans favor choreo our brands or looks can ego stripes our inner space to bucome in only words. Such self-expression can be incredibly frank and therapeutic, helping to clarify our intuitive feelings and thoughts. Stoics also appreciated the practice of studying their impressions, which includes the question of why we feel a certain way in relation to a person, event or idea. Such verification helps to distinguish simple reactions from those based on a deeper understanding of our true self. Epictetus, for example, taught that we are not concerned about events themselves, but our attitude to them. By doubting our immediate impressions, we can begin to see how our judgments are formed, which in turn makes our intuitive processes more transparent and reliable. Communication with nature and practice consciousness are zenacetel no different. We also see how the reactions of people and in everyday activities can also improve our intuition. Nature acts on the basis of intuitive processes. It does not think about flowering plants or river paths. It just flows. Diving into nature and practicing presence in the present moment, we can better navigate this natural, intuitive flow. Cultivating intuition is a dynamic and continuous process, which includes a combination of self-analysis, self-expression and practical philosophy. It improves not only the process of making personal decisions, but also the interaction with other people, contributing to deeper compassion and understanding. By introducing these practices into our everyday life, we discover a richer, more intuitive way of life, guided by wisdom, which goes beyond the framework of simple rational thinking. It is the coordination with our inner wisdom, which is approved both by Stoic philosophy and by modern psychology, which leads to a life that not only brings more satisfaction, but also to a greater degree to it. We must also avoid being overwhelmed by uncontrolled emotions and impulsive reactions. Seneca noted that our emotions must be subordinated to the mind. He emphasized the danger that our feelings can dictate our actions without rational control. This point of view is very important for understanding why we should not get lost in our intuitive sensations. Our instincts often give us quick and strong hints, especially in situations when we have accumulated a lot of experience. However, they can also mislead us or rely on incomplete information, past prejudices or wrongly interpreted emotions. The key to using the power of our intuition without its domination lies in cultivating a reflexive mind. Mark Aurelius practiced this through his daily thoughts that he wrote down in his meditations. He often wrote about how important it is to distance oneself from one's immediate feelings in order to analyze and understand them. Thus, he aimed to control his actions not by fleeting impulses, but by a thoughtful understanding of one's deepest values and facts. This Stoic practice of self-analysis is especially relevant in the modern, rapidly changing world, where decisions often have to be made quickly and under pressure. It teaches us to pause and consider our intuitive sensations. Where do they come from? What can they react to? Are they a reaction to external pressure or do they correspond to our long-term goals? In addition, Epictetus advised us to distinguish what is under our control and what is not. This distinction has decisive significance when working with intuition. Although we can control our reaction to these feelings, emotions themselves can arise spontaneously. By focusing on our reaction, we maintain control over our actions and decisions, ensuring their compliance with our thoughtful choice. In order not to get lost in our intuitive sensations, it is also useful to look for points of view from the outside. Dialogue with reliable friends or mentors can give us new knowledge and help us see more than the direct and subjective impressions of our intuition. This practice corresponds to the Socrates method of questions, which encourages a deeper study of our beliefs and assumptions through argumentative disputes and discussions. In addition, it may be useful to establish a relationship of personal restraints and counterweights through regular analysis of the results of our decisions based on intuition. This helps not only to improve intuition, but also to draw lessons from the cases when intuition could knock us off the path. Here, the concept of Aristotle about reflexive practice may help, when a person studies through a constant analysis of his actions and their results. To not get lost in our intuitive sensations means to maintain a balance between intuitive wisdom and rational analysis. This balance allows us to navigate in difficult life situations both with confidence and with caution, guaranteeing that our decisions will be as justified and effective as possible. Practicing the Stoic principles, we give ourselves the opportunity to use our intuition not as a single navigator, but as a trusted advisor in the counsels of the mind. This approach leads to a more thoughtful, stable and wise way of life, which is true to both our feelings and our balanced judgments. Traveling through life, understanding and uniting our intuition with the Stoic wisdom, we learn that the true art of life is to live not in blind pursuit of our instincts, but in their harmonization with rational thinking. This balance allows us to navigate in difficulties of life, showing both the courage of beliefs and the wisdom of thinking. Thank you for staying with us until the end of the video. Thank you for staying with us by developing our intuition until the end of the video. By developing our intuition and combining it with rational analysis, step by step we are getting closer to a life of complete harmony and awareness, step by step. Let's continue to develop. Think and strive for life together. And strive for the future together. And strive for life filled with and strive for a life balance and wisdom. Filled with balance and wisdom. Remember, every step on this path adds depth. Every step on this path adds depth to your inner world and helps you better understand yourself and the world around you.